Chapter 1. The Unacceptable Question. It was a terrible, gloomy day, dark with the sun obscured behind huge, dense clouds. Staring out the window, watching the rain pour down, Jake was filled with deep sadness. Jake was a young boy of 8 with dark blonde, shaggy hair that curled in places. Freckles covered his short, pointy nose, and his bright blue eyes were fixed on the rain with loathing intent. Scanning the world he longed to be a part of, he knew better than anyone that his mum would never allow him to go outside. He closed his eyes, imagined himself brave enough to even attempt to ask her. "Mum," Jake pictured himself saying in a low but more confident voice than he actually felt. "Could I go outside and see if Billy would want to come and play?" Scared of his own imagination, he looked into the face he imagined his mum would have, contorted with fury at the thought of such a ridiculous question. "Why would I let you outside in this mess?" she would scream. "You'll come back and make my house dirty, wet, and horrible." "I just thought," Jake tried to think of a response to her aggression, but his mind and voice failed him in unison. "You thought wrong. Never ask such a ridiculous question again. Now go to your room and stay there," she thundered, storming off. Frightened by his own imagination, Jake's imagination confirms that asking his mum was simply out the question. Admitting defeat, he turned back to the window, accepting the loneliness and sadness. Staring out the window for what seemed like an eternity, Jake looked at blades of grass covered in amber leaves in places. His blue eyes became transfixed on an amber leaf being pelted by heavy raindrops. A surprising smile crept across his face. He had just realized that the leaf he was watching was actually acting as a shield for the grass, protecting everything beneath it from the rain that was trying so desperately to attack. Focusing on the leaf and the ground beneath it, his smile grew even wider until his small white teeth beamed like he was in a photo shoot. His smile wasn't there because he was bored or because there was anyone to smile at. His smile began to beam because in his focused gaze, he spotted something else. Chapter 2. Battle of Nature. The protected grass, which did not move from his bright blue-eyed gaze, appeared on closer inspection to be at least 24 knights fully coated in silver and gold-plated armor, holding up the leaf. Well, he thought it was a leaf at first, but Jake realized it was actually a shield, held up overhead by the many knights. Jake doubled his concentration, which was now even more difficult as the heavy rain filled the windows with wet streaks, blurring his vision. Straining his eyes, he could just make out the grimacing faces of the knights, filled with determination, strength, and will. They held their barrier not just to protect themselves, but to shield everything beneath it. Jake was shocked to realize through his amplified concentration that what he first thought was heavy rain was now a storm of arrows, falling from an unknown location in the sky, pounding down and piercing every inch of unprotected land as far as he could see. Staring in complete astonishment, he realized he was no longer watching a battle of nature, but a real-life battle. Gazing further, he saw many battles taking place. The grass was now swarming with silver and gold-plated knights, all holding up their own shields against their enemies' arrows. The clouds overhead gave the grass a misty, dark look which, in Jake's opinion, made the arrows feel even more sinister. The shields, Jake noticed, were becoming harder for the knights to hold, as if a gigantic monster was blowing upon the world with all its breath. Spinning his gaze to the point where he thought the monster's breath was coming from, Jake's eyes found its target, and he did not move for what felt like a long time. Chapter 3. The castle materializes. Jake held his gaze on the creature producing the wind-like breath, now overpowering the knights and causing their shields to fly across patches of grass, as if they were exchanging shields. The creature was bent over on all fours, back arched, gasping for as much air as possible, ready to explode with all its might. Pushing his body forward and fully extending its arched back, it blew out an enormous gust of breath from its black furred mouth, revealing yellow pointy teeth as it gasped for more oxygen. "Jake! Jake!" said a high-pitched shrill voice from behind him, forcing his eyes away from the creature. "Yes, Mom," Jake responded quickly, slightly annoyed. Your father's gonna be late. There's been an accident on the M25 on his way back home. He's at a standstill. Okay, Jake said, seemingly uninterested. His mind was still focused outside. He quickly let his eyes follow his mind's lead. As he returned to the window, Jake noticed that something that looked like a castle at the end of the battlefield. Strange, Jake thought curiously. I think I've only ever seen a shed there before. Analyzing the newly formed castle with growing excitement, Jake saw a structure that looked more like a brick tower, complete with a drawbridge suspended in the air. To Jake's horror, it revealed an orangey glow, something that could only mean one thing. Disbelief and a twinge of fear slowly crept through him. One thing was for certain, whatever lay inside the castle must be worth the heavy guard. Jake's inside burned with determination, courage, and more importantly, a newfound sense of purpose. His mind was set. He would break into the castle and steal whatever it was protecting so fiercely. Chapter 4. The Glow Inside. Sitting in his room, Jake racked his brains trying to devise a plan to infiltrate the castle and retrieve the treasure inside. Gazing once more at the arrows falling heavily from the sky, Jake thought, Step 1. I need to find some armor to cross the battlefield safely. Getting up, he walked over to his wardrobe, doubting he had anything strong enough to protect against arrows. Closing his eyes, gripping the handle, he turned his wrist and wrenched open the wardrobe door, hoping to find something that could help him survive the journey. Standing there for a few seconds, eyes still closed and praying. Finally, Jake opened his eyes and gaped at what he saw in what he thought was his ordinary wardrobe. Anyone looking at Jake in this moment might have thought he had two gigantic blue marbles for eyes. He was so wide-eyed with amazement, his vision blurred from a lack of blinking. Inside his wardrobe was none of the clothes Jake recognized. His eyes darted from left to right, up and down, taking in his very own suit of plated armor, complete with a black plated hood to cover his head, something Jake had never seen before. Perfect, he said joyfully. No way the arrows will touch me with this on. He quickly took the armor out of the now fully transformed armory. Putting on the surprisingly weightless armor, Jake glanced at his bedroom door, wary of being spotted by the guard. He sat there for a few moments, imagining what might happen if he got caught. Just where do you think you're going? Bellowed a familiar voice in his mind. Where did you get that stupid armor from? And what did I tell you about going outside in this weather? Jake shrank under the weight of his own imagination, nearly defeated before his journey even began. Returning once more to the window, disappointing in himself, he scanned the battlefield again. The knights holding the shield, the storm of arrows, the creature blowing with all its might, the castle with the drawbridge, and the lava glowing orange in front of it. The glow seemed brighter than before, mirroring the courage growing inside Jake. Confidence surged through him, and his mind became unbreakable, one with his quest. Despite his fear, he resolved to attempt the journey he'd envisioned moments ago. Still wearing the plated armor, he got up, turned the handle on his bedroom door, and stepped through it.